You ever sit in your favorite chair, maybe sipping your morning coffee, and realize how still the house has become? Not peaceful quiet, more like the kind that echoes. The kind where even the tick of the clock sounds a little too loud. It's not that anything dramatic happened overnight. It's just the calls don't come as often. The lunch dates slow down. Kids grow up and move away. And suddenly, the days start to stretch a little longer than they used to. You're not alone in feeling that way. I want you to know that. The Centers for Disease Control says that 1 in every 4 people over 65 feels isolated. And not just a little blue, real, heavy loneliness that sits with you through breakfast and follows you to bed. Maybe you've lost a spouse. Maybe your best friend moved to Florida. Maybe your grown kids are juggling so much they forget to check in. And in the middle of all that, it's easy to start feeling like the world's just moved on without you. But here's something I believe with all my heart. Connection isn't gone. It's just hiding. And you, yes, you, still have so much love to give, so much light to share, and a heart that still matters deeply. This video isn't about fixing you. It's about gently walking with you back to the people, the places, and the pieces of yourself that still bring joy. If this resonates with you even a little, I invite you to hit the like button, subscribe to our little family here at Vibrant Elders, and tell me in the comments, when did you last feel truly connected? I read every word. Now come sit with me. Let's take the first small step back toward that warm, full-hearted life you still deserve. Number 1, reignite a lost passion. I want you to close your eyes for a second and go back in time. Not way back, just far enough to remember the last time you felt truly alive doing something you loved. Maybe it was the smell of fresh earth while your hands sank into the garden soil, or the soft click of knitting needles as you sat by the window, sunlight pouring in. Maybe it was the rhythm of your fingers on a piano, the rustle of pages as you wrote in a journal, or the joy of baking that one perfect banana bread everyone used to ask for. Those moments weren't small. They were your soul breathing freely. But somewhere along the road, maybe after retirement, maybe after loss, maybe just through the quiet grind of everyday life, those passions slipped to the back of the shelf. Not forgotten, just sleeping. And here's the beautiful thing about passion. It doesn't expire. It doesn't fade away forever. It waits, patiently, silently, until the day you choose to reach for it again. You don't need to paint like Picasso or write like Hemingway. That's not what this is about. It's not about performance or being productive. It's about that gentle joy that rises when your hands and your heart move in harmony. Studies from the Mayo Clinic and other research centers have shown that creative hobbies, whether it's painting, writing, music, or even woodworking, can significantly reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety in older adults. It improves memory. It sharpens focus. But even more than that, it reminds you that you are still here, still vibrant, still capable of creating beauty. I knew a man named Walter. He was 72 when he picked up his harmonica again after nearly 3 decades. Said he was cleaning out his garage when he found it in an old shoebox, dusty and dented. He brought it inside, cleaned it up, and sat on his porch that evening just playing for himself. I didn't sound great, he told me, but I felt like myself again. That's what matters. Or my friend Clara, 68, who used to bake the most delicious apple pies. After her husband passed, she stopped baking for a while, said the kitchen felt too quiet. Then one day her granddaughter asked, "Grandma, can you show me how you made that pie?" That one question brought Clara back into the kitchen. Now she teaches a pie-making class once a month at the community center. It's not a big crowd, just 5 or 6 people, but her eyes light up every time she talks about it. "It gave me something to look forward to," she said. See, rediscovering a passion doesn't just give you something to do. It gives you a reason to wake up, a sense of personal joy that isn't dependent on anyone else. And from that joy, connection grows. You meet people who share your interests. You start conversations again. You smile more. You remember who you are. You might be thinking, well, it's been too long. I wouldn't know where to start. That's okay. Start small. Just one step. Pull out that old journal. Take out the yarn. Hum that tune you used to love. Or simply make a list of things that once brought you happiness, even if it's just for a few minutes a week. Maybe join a beginner's painting group or an online class for seniors. There are wonderful free programs now through libraries and senior centers. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't even need to be good at it. You just need to begin. Because when you create, whether it's a garden, a story, a loaf of bread, you're not just making something. You're remembering that your presence still matters, that your hands can still build beauty, that you can still contribute something meaningful, not for applause, but for the quiet, steady joy that grows inside you. And if you've never had a passion or can't recall one that ever stuck, that's perfectly okay too. This can be the time to explore something new without pressure. Curiosity is its own kind of connection. Try a watercolor YouTube tutorial. Pick up a puzzle. Start a scrapbook. You might be surprised by what clicks. The point isn't to stay busy, it's to stay engaged. With yourself, with your senses, with the parts of you that still want to laugh and create and feel wonder. That's how we begin to lift the fog of loneliness, not by forcing connection with others right away, but by reconnecting with ourselves. So I ask you now, what did you used to love? What could you gently bring back into your life? Not to impress anyone, but just to feed your own spirit again. Whatever that is, I want you to give it a place at your table this week. Dust it off. Invite it back in. It's been waiting for you. Number 2, find a role again. You know what's funny? When we're younger, we spend decades wishing for a break. A little peace and quiet. The chance to slow down. And then one day, retirement comes. The house quiets down. The schedule opens up. And it feels like we finally have the time we always wanted. But what nobody tells you is how hard it can be to lose your role in the world. You're no longer the boss, or the teacher, or the mom who always showed up. People stop needing you in the same way. And without that daily purpose, even peaceful days can start to feel empty. But here's the truth. Just because you stepped away from a job doesn't mean you stepped away from your worth. You don't stop having something to offer the world. Not at 65, not at 75, not even at 95. In fact, right now, more than ever, the world needs what you have. Your wisdom, your patience, your stories, your steady hands. You carry the kind of experience that can't be Googled, that can't be taught in schools. And the minute you start sharing that again, you step right back into your power. I want to tell you about Harold. He's 79, spent his career as an electrician. Quiet guy, didn't think of himself as much of a teacher. But then one day, his neighbor's teenage son asked if Harold could help him fix a ceiling fan. That led to wiring a garage. Then a few more kids from the neighborhood started coming over for little DIY lessons. Harold now spends his Saturdays showing a group of young people how to use tools. He doesn't charge a penny, just says it gives him a reason to get out of bed. I'm not just killing time anymore, he told me. I'm building something again. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be big. Sometimes it starts with one simple question. How can I help? Maybe you could read to kids at the library once a week, or help sort donations at a food bank. Maybe you have a heart for veterans and want to sit with folks at the VA hospital just so they don't feel forgotten. Maybe your church needs someone to fold bulletins or greet visitors. Every small act of service is a thread in the fabric of connection. And every time you show up, you stitch yourself into something bigger than the silence. There are programs all over the country that are begging for the involvement of older adults. Mentoring programs like Big Brothers Big Sisters, community centers, literacy tutors, senior-to-senior phone support groups, you name it. And the studies back it up. Research from Harvard and AARP shows that older adults who volunteer regularly report higher levels of happiness, better physical health, and even longer life expectancy. But more than that, having a role again reminds you that you are still needed, that you still count, that you are not just retired, you are reinvested. And there's something deeply healing about being seen again, not just as someone who once was, but as someone who still is. I remember Ruth. She's 75 now. Once a third-grade teacher. She started reading stories to kids at the local library on Wednesday mornings. Just for fun, she said. But pretty soon, those kids started calling her Grandma Ruth. They'd bring her drawings, ask her about her week. She wasn't just reading books. She was becoming part of their lives. I didn't even know I missed it until I felt it again, she told me. That feeling of being looked forward to. And maybe you're thinking, well, I've slowed down. I don't move as fast as I used to. That's okay. The value you bring isn't in how quick you walk or how long you stand. It's in the quiet attention, the way you listen, the way you show up with presence and kindness when someone needs it most. That's the kind of role no one can retire from. Sometimes just being available to someone younger, your grandkids, a neighbor, even someone you chat with at the grocery store, can ripple in ways you don't even see. You give people the gift of your story, your stability, your heart. And in return, you get the most beautiful reward, a reason to show up again tomorrow. So if you've been feeling like you're floating a bit, like you're not sure where you fit anymore, try asking yourself, where could my experience be useful? Not to be busy, not to fill time, but to feel alive again, to feel part of something that needs you. Because you're not done, not by a long shot. There are places, people, and purposes still waiting for you. You just have to say yes. Number 3, create a weekly connection ritual. Have you ever noticed how some of the smallest things in life end up meaning the most? Not the big celebrations or fancy vacations, but the quiet little habits we build. A morning cup of tea, a call with an old friend every Sunday, that familiar walk down the block just as the sun starts to dip. Those little patterns, they ground us. They give shape to our days. And more importantly, they give us something to look forward to. When we're dealing with loneliness, it's easy to feel like the days just blur together. Monday looks like Thursday, and before we know it, a whole week has passed without a real moment of connection. That's where rituals come in. Not routines out of obligation, but small, meaningful actions we choose to do regularly because they make our hearts feel full. I want to tell you about Mr. Martin, 83 years old and sharp as ever. Every Monday morning, he brews 2 cups of coffee, one for himself and one for his neighbor, Marlene. Rain or shine, he knocks on her door and they sit on the porch for 20 minutes, talking about everything and nothing. He calls it his cafe connection. It's not a grand gesture. It's not hard to do, but it's become a highlight of their week, something they both rely on. That simple ritual turned 2 quiet neighbors into friends who look out for each other. And that's the power of a connection ritual. It doesn't have to be social media or a busy calendar of events. It just needs to be something you do on purpose, with love, with consistency. A handwritten letter each week to a grandchild. A Tuesday afternoon phone call to your sister. A Friday walk with your dog where you wave to the same folks in your neighborhood. Behavioral scientists say that rituals like these actually reduce stress and increase emotional resilience. They're not just good for the heart, they're good for the brain. Because when your brain knows that kindness, companionship, or creativity is scheduled into your life, it begins to expect joy. It's like setting a clock inside your spirit that says, connection is coming. I remember Betty, who lives out in Arizona, widowed for over a decade. Her children are scattered across the country. She started something she calls her sunset notes. Every evening, just before the sun dips behind the mountains, she writes a quick note to someone. Could be a family member, an old friend, even her old high school teacher. Sometimes it's just a memory she shares, sometimes a prayer, sometimes a photo from her garden. She mails one out every week. She says, "It gives me a sense of motion, like I'm still part of someone's day." And you know what? People write back. Some short, some long. But that small act of ritual has blossomed into dozens of unexpected conversations. You don't have to be a writer. You don't have to be outgoing. You just need one small thing that says, "This is my moment to reach out." It could be baking muffins once a week and bringing them to the staff at your doctor's office. Or joining a once-a-week group, like a book club or a choir, or even a virtual gathering for seniors. And if leaving the house feels hard right now, that's okay too. Technology can help here. Setting up a weekly Zoom call with your kids or grandkids. Watching a live-stream church service with a friend and calling to chat after. Even playing words with friends or online Scrabble. Just knowing someone is interacting with you, even across a screen, can make a difference. What matters is that it's regular, predictable, something your heart can count on. When you build that into your week, even just one thing, you're giving yourself something priceless: consistency and companionship. It doesn't have to be exciting. It just has to be real. And you don't have to wait for someone else to start it. You can be the one who reaches out. The first wave, the first note, the first call. Often, the people we think are too busy or too distant are just waiting for a gentle nudge, a reason to respond. Your ritual could be the thread that pulls them back toward you. Even if it's just a hello to the same barista every Thursday or a tradition of bringing your neighbor's paper to the porch, it all counts. It all says, you're not alone, and neither am I. So take a moment tonight, or right after this video, and ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do every week that brings me closer to someone else? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to begin. Because connection doesn't always come in the form of deep conversations or grand gestures. Sometimes it's a cup of coffee on a porch, a letter at sunset, a simple phone call every Friday. That's how we build something steady again. That's how we begin to feel seen again. That's how we start to believe, deep down, that we still matter. Number 4, embracing technology to stay connected. I know what you might be thinking, technology? That's for the younger crowd. But hear me out, because I've seen the magic that happens when someone in their 70s or 80s picks up a phone, taps a screen, and suddenly sees a grandchild's smile pop up in real time. It's not about being trendy or learning every gadget. It's about opening a window so your heart can reach across miles. Technology, at its best, isn't about machines. It's about connection. And right now, it's one of the easiest, most powerful tools we have to stay close to the people we care about, even when we're far apart. I remember Jim, a gentleman from North Carolina, who hadn't seen his daughter in California for almost 2 years. He used to say, "Phones are for talking, not looking." But one day, his granddaughter set up a Zoom call on his tablet. She waved at him through the screen, showing him her new puppy. He was stunned. "I didn't know I could feel so close just by tapping a button," he said. That one video call turned into a weekly tradition. Now, every Sunday, he dresses up, makes a cup of tea, and logs on for family time. It became the highlight of his week. You don't need to be a tech expert. You don't need to know everything. All you need is a little willingness, and maybe someone to walk you through the first few steps. That's what grandkids, neighbors, or even your local library or senior center can help with. Many places now offer free tech tutorials specifically for seniors. Just one short lesson can teach you how to use FaceTime, Zoom, or even Facebook to keep in touch. And it's not just about calls. Technology opens up little doorways to the world again. You can join a book club that meets over video once a week. Watch a live-streamed church service and chat with friends afterward. You can play Scrabble, chess, or bingo with friends across town or across the country. Some folks I know even started a virtual movie night where they press play at the same time on a Netflix show and talk about it afterward on the phone. If you miss the feeling of browsing through a bookstore or chatting with a friend over coffee, there are online groups designed just for that. Places like Senior Planet and Get Set Up offer free and low-cost online classes for folks over 60. Everything from digital photography and online safety to meditation, cooking, and fitness. And the best part? You can do it all from your living room, in your slippers, with a cozy blanket and a warm drink. No need to drive. No need to dress up unless you want to. Now, I won't pretend that learning something new is always easy. There may be moments of frustration when the screen freezes, or you press the wrong button, or your sound disappears. But let me tell you something. Those moments, they're not failures. They're proof that you're still growing, still trying, still reaching. And each time you figure out one more thing, it's like planting a little flag on a new mountain. I did it. I've watched seniors light up with pride the first time they send an emoji, or post a photo, or comment on their grandchild's Facebook post and get a heart back. That kind of digital back and forth might seem small, but emotionally, it's a big deal. It says, "I see you." It says, "I'm here." And here's something else. Using technology doesn't just connect you to others. It also helps reconnect you with yourself. You can rediscover old music on YouTube, watch documentaries about places you've traveled, even find recordings of your favorite shows from back in the day. You can look up recipes, join virtual walking groups, or write your memories into an email you send to your kids or grandkids. The possibilities aren't just endless, they're empowering. And if you're worried about security or making mistakes, that's okay. Ask someone you trust to help set up your devices safely. Use strong passwords, avoid clicking on strange emails, and stick to well-known platforms. Think of it like driving a car. You don't need to know how the engine works. You just need to know how to steer it safely. I met a woman named Dolores, 76 years young, who told me she used to feel completely left behind until her daughter got her an iPad. At first, she said it was intimidating, but now she uses it to attend online Bible study, video chat with her sister in another state, and even joined a gardening group that shares photos and advice. It's not just a screen, she told me. It's my bridge to the world. So if there's a part of you that's curious, even just a little, I encourage you to give it a try. Not because you have to, but because connection is worth the effort. Because your voice, your presence, your love, it deserves to be shared and received, no matter where the people you care about are. You're not too old. You're not too late. You are exactly the right age to learn something that brings people closer. And if nobody has told you that lately, hear it from me now. You are smart enough, brave enough, and the people who love you, they would be honored to help you get there. Number 5. Heal old wounds and rebuild bridges. Sometimes the ache of loneliness doesn't come from being alone in a room. It comes from knowing there are people out there you once held close, but something happened. A misunderstanding, a hurtful moment, maybe just time and distance. And now, all that's left is silence where connection used to be. It's a quiet grief that so many carry, especially after 65. A sibling you haven't spoken to in years. A friend who drifted away. A grown child you love deeply but barely hear from anymore. And the longer that silence stretches, the harder it feels to break. But here's something that might surprise you. So many of those people, they're thinking about you, too. They're just as unsure how to reach out. They're waiting, maybe nervously, maybe hopefully, for a sign that the door hasn't completely closed. I want to tell you about Edie. She's 71 and hadn't spoken to her older sister in over 14 years. A falling out over something small that became something big. Both too proud to call, too hurt to try. Until one day, Edie sat down and wrote a simple postcard. It didn't explain everything. It didn't rehash the past. It just said, "I miss you. If you ever want to talk, I'd love that." 2 weeks later, she got a phone call. They cried more than they spoke. But that one line broke the silence that had lived between them for over a decade. Rebuilding a bridge doesn't require fireworks. It doesn't even require forgiveness right away. It just takes one step toward the other side. One kind word. One gentle gesture. You don't need to solve everything in one call. You don't even need to talk about the past at first. You can simply say, "I've been thinking about you. I hope you're okay." That's more than enough to open a window again. And no, not everyone will respond. Some people may stay distant. Some may not be ready. That's part of life, and it doesn't mean you failed. The point isn't always to fix, it's to offer. To give yourself peace in knowing that you tried, that your heart stayed open. I knew a gentleman, Roger, who hadn't heard from his son in 5 years. They'd had a blow-up over money, and the silence that followed turned into a wall. On his 70th birthday, Roger mailed a card, not to ask for anything, just to say, "I'm still proud to be your dad." 2 months later, his son showed up at his door with a pie and a sheepish grin. They didn't talk about what happened for a long time, but they started watching football together again, little by little. That quiet return, those ordinary afternoons, became sacred. It's never too late to try. It doesn't matter if it's been 5 months or 50 years. If someone's name still lives in your heart, if their memory brings a flicker of warmth or sadness, you can reach out. Even if it's awkward, even if it's scary, because healing isn't about perfect words. It's about showing up with softness. And here's the thing, reconnection doesn't just heal the relationship. It heals you. It reminds you that you are still part of something beyond yourself. That time doesn't erase love. That even if things can't go back to how they were, they can grow into something new, something honest. You might start small. A birthday card, a forwarded article, a shared photo. "This reminded me of you." That's all it takes. Or a simple message. "I hope you're doing well. I miss our talks." It doesn't have to be deep. It just has to be real. Sometimes, the bridge you rebuild isn't even to someone you fought with. It's someone you just drifted away from. A neighbor you used to chat with. A cousin you haven't called in years. The friend who sat next to you in church every Sunday before the pandemic hit. Those people are often one message away from re-entering your life in a meaningful way. And if you need help with the words, write them down first. Practice. Or start with a letter instead of a phone call. There's something healing about writing your thoughts on paper, even if you never send them. It clears the fog. It brings clarity. And sometimes, just writing it helps you know what your heart really wants to say. I once met Elaine, 80 years old, who hadn't seen her childhood best friend in almost 4 decades. Life had just taken them in different directions. But during one long winter, feeling particularly alone, she typed her friend's name into Facebook. Found her. Sent a message. "I don't know if you remember me," she wrote, "but I still think about the time we snuck out to see that Elvis movie." They reconnected. Now they send each other voice notes every week. Elaine said, she remembered. She remembered everything. Don't underestimate the power of memory, of shared history. Those old friendships, those family bonds, they're never really erased. They just wait, like quiet rooms in the house of your life, ready to be opened again. So tonight, maybe think of one name, one person, someone who once meant something to you. someone who still does. And consider making that first move. Not because you're responsible for the outcome, but because you're choosing hope over silence. Because every time you reach out, every time you soften the distance, you make space for love to return. And that kind of courage, it's one of the most beautiful forms of connection there is. Maybe as you've listened today, a few names came to mind, a few memories stirred, a few quiet hopes gently awakened. That's no accident, because even in the stillest moments, your heart remembers how it feels to be truly connected, to laugh without holding back, to be needed, to be seen. Loneliness might visit from time to time. That's just part of being human, but it doesn't have to settle in. You're not stuck. You're not forgotten. And you are certainly not alone. Not in this season of life, not in your feelings, and not in your desire to reach out again. Whether it's picking up an old hobby, finding a new purpose, starting a weekly tradition, trying a bit of tech, or simply sending that one message you've been too nervous to send, connection is closer than it feels. And you don't have to do it all at once. Just one small act can open the door. One step forward is enough. You still have so much to offer, so much love to give, so many conversations left to have, and memories still waiting to be made. Life isn't finished with you yet. It's just inviting you to a different kind of richness, one filled with depth, meaning, and quiet joy. If something in this video touched you, I'd love for you to like this video, subscribe to our channel Vibrant Elders, and maybe even share a moment when you felt truly connected in the comments below. I read them, and I'm always moved by your stories. You're still part of this world, and it's better with you in it. Keep reaching, keep loving, keep believing in new beginnings. They're closer than you think.